All right, well, I am going to go ahead and pass things over to Dr. Lauren Lewis, who's going to be our presenter today, and we're very, very glad to have you.
Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here. I will share my screen. Can everyone see it okay? Yeah. Okay, perfect. So as I said, I'm Dr. Lauren Lewis, and I'm super excited to be here today. I'm a recovery researcher at the UConn School of Medicine, and I'm with the Collaborative Hub for Emerging Adult Recovery Research, which I know is a mouthful, but essentially we're looking at emerging adults who are in recovery and use some sort of medication to aid in their recovery. I'm also a licensed recovery counselor, so I'm really excited to present my research on passion, which kind of integrates these two things, both the clinical and the research side. So I'm going to present for about 15 minutes, and then Jackie, I believe, is going to lead us on a discussion on the topic. But feel free to ask questions if you have them along the way. So I'm going to introduce you today to a theory called the dualistic model of passion. It was developed by Dr. Robert Valorant. And I'm going to talk about how my current research uses this model to study the ways passion might influence recovery outcomes. So the model says that passion is an activity that we love to do, that we engage in with enthusiasm and commitment. And this is something that we're really motivated to do on a regular basis. So we're going to spend a lot of time pursuing this, sometimes even a lifetime pursuing this. And the activity is so important that it eventually becomes a part of who we are. So you may say, like, I am an artist or I am a baker. Passions can include, sports, leisure activities like reading or watching movies. It can be more artistic expressions like painting or pottery. It can be your work, spending time with family, etc. So similar to some of the things that are in the chat, right? Some art and stuff like that. So while there's clear benefits for regularly participating in like social, substance-free activities, similar to the events that you all go to through the Phoenix and the New Form platform, I really wanted to know how these passionate activities are influencing recovery. So not just the things we kind of dip into every once in a while, but the things that we're really invested in and are a part of who we are. What kind of added extra benefits are those giving to people in recovery? So just to clarify, what I'm talking about today are those activities, right? The ones that we're really excited by. It's important to note, though, that not all passions are the same. So there are two types of passion, according to this model, harmonious and obsessive passion. Here we go. So harmonious passion is based on this very free and open engagement with the activity. So when you're engaging in a harmonious passion, the activity occupies this like important space in our lives and our identities, but it's going to be in harmony with other identities we have, such as being a mom or being in recovery, right? They're very balanced. And harmonious passion isn't going to overwhelm or overpower these other aspects of our life. Obsessive passion, on the other hand, is more of this kind of compulsive and almost like uncontrollable urge to participate in the activity, typically due to this kind of internal or external pressure that we're putting on ourselves. So this is when it feels like we can't help but participate in the activity. We have to participate in it. And in this case, the passion takes over kind of a disproportionate amount of time and space in our life and in our identity. So a great example of this was given by the original research team, where they surveyed bikers in Canada, so like pedal biking in Canada, and they surveyed them in the summer to see how often they were biking, what their passion type was, what their experiences were. And then they reached out to the same group over the winter, where the roads in that area were pretty like full of snow and often kind of dangerous to bike on. And they found that the people who were more in the obsessively passionate category are the ones who are going to continue to bike despite this like cold, kind of treacherous weather. And the harmonious group were a lot more flexible and adaptive. So they would choose a different activity over the winter and then go back to biking when it was safe to do so again. So obsessive passion is the kind of passion that really like takes over, right? Takes over your life, it takes over your identity. And harmonious passion is this much more fluid and flexible experience. I do want to say it's important to know that uh, when experiencing both of these, harmonious and obsessive passion, the individual still finds the activity enjoyable. So it's still something that they love to do and they're invested in. It's just kind of this like internalization process that's different. And that most of us have a mix of both. So no one really is going to fall 100% into obsessive or harmonious. We kind of live on this scale, but we can still look at it by what like tendencies we have more of in our life. So the differences are important because research has found that harmonious passion results in a lot more personal growth, life satisfaction, well-being, connection to others, and higher self-esteem when we're comparing it to the obsessively passionate group, which typically results more in like these negative feelings of burnout and isolation, sometimes guilt and shame. So obsessive passion often results in like this rumination about the activity, and then you can lose focus on other important aspects of who you are. And even during the engagement with your passion, so even while you're biking or crafting or whatever, there's these noticeable differences that researchers have found where harmonious passion leads to like a heightened concentration and sense of flow and a lot of positive emotions, as well as like higher enjoyment in the activity. And for obsessive passion, sometimes they might feel positive feelings if they're feeling very like validated during engagement, but they can also feel negative feelings when they feel like they're being challenged or their self-worth is threatened. So it's just like a lot more kind of on thin ice with that group. So similar to the goals of the Phoenix, I think having a harmonious passion really builds this sense of community. It develops a sense of self and confidence, and it can bring a lot of fun and joy to our lives. So for me, I immediately saw some similarities between the findings on this model of passion leading to health and well-being and the recovery research, which is moving towards this recognition of recovery as it's like a lifetime pursuit of wellness and joy, right? So given the findings on passion and these kind of social and psychological outcomes, I wanted to know how passion might influence recovery outcomes. And I knew from working as a counselor that people who had an activity that they loved and focused a lot of energy on were gaining a lot of benefits from it, similar to what you all gained from the Phoenix. So I thought that this framework could kind of very easily and quickly fit into recovery research field. So I conducted a study online with 346 adults who reported being in recovery or having resolved a problem with alcohol or substances. The individuals completed surveys on recovery, their substance use history, their passion, mental health, life satisfaction, kind of a whole range of things. Just over half were male, most of them were Caucasian, and the average age was 42. 71% of them reported having a passion, which is in line with what other research has shown that like 70 to 75% of people report having a passion. And we had a pretty wide range of time in recovery represented, which I think is important. So as you can see here on the graph, we had about 28% who were pretty new into recovery that first year. 38%, a pretty big group, is in the first 5 years. And then we also had quite a few people who were in the 5+ range. So we had a really good range there. We also had representation from different types of recovery or pathways. So about 22% reported natural recovery, so no use of formal treatment, and 33% reported attending 12-step or mutual help groups. And then we had a mix of people who were in recovery from like alcohol alone, substances, or both substances and alcohol. We also had a really wide range of passions reported, similar to the chat here, right? So we had beekeeping, fishing, going to church, playing video games, time with pets, cooking, kind of you name it. We got the whole gamut, which I think was really exciting. So what we did is we grouped individuals based on their highest score. So if they had a higher harmonious, passionate score on the scale that we gave, we grouped them there, or we grouped them in the obsessively passionate group. And we wanted to see what the differences were in recovery capital scores. Recovery capital includes resources someone has that can either like enhance or hinder their recovery. It can include finances, social support, and internal strengths like self-esteem, things like that. And what we found is that the harmoniously passionate group did have the highest recovery capital scores on average, as we kind of anticipated. And then interestingly, the individuals who said, no, I don't have a passion, they had the lowest recovery capital scores. And there was like significant differences here. So I think that that part is really important because it highlights that having a passion at all is still adding benefit to recovery. So even if you're experiencing it in this more obsessively passionate way, there are still benefits that you're gaining from it in your recovery. Um, and then we also further tested if passion type would kind of predict recovery outcomes. And we did find that harmonious passion did, in fact, predict recovery capital. So again, what this means is just that people with harmonious passion are going to have these kind of higher levels of recovery capital in their life. Um, and people with obsessive passion, while they do show more recovery capital than no passion, there is a difference here that we're seeing. And I think this just suggests that the quality of your passion, not just having the passion, plays a super important role. I also wanted to talk about some other findings that we saw that I just think are important to highlight the differences. So we looked at the mental health variables, and as you can see here, the harmonious passion group did have the lowest scores for both depression and anxiety, whereas the obsessively passionate and no passion group had pretty much similar scores. So their depression average scores and anxiety average scores are essentially the same. Similarly, we looked at life satisfaction, so kind of overall satisfaction with life. And again, we found that the harmoniously passionate group had the highest scores for life satisfaction. The obsessive passion group did have kind of slightly lower life satisfaction scores. And again, that no passion group had the lowest scores. So this is again just highlighting the same kind of thing, that having a passion at all is definitely adding benefit, but having it and experiencing it in that harmonious way is probably going to give the most benefit to people. So what this all means and why I think this is important, I think the findings from my study are really exciting because it's the first study to look at recovery and passion with this model. So far, the model has looked at substance use outcomes as well as a lot of other health outcomes, like more broadly, but not at recovery. So I'm really excited to just kind of keep this line of research going. And this is very much just the base, the starting point for further research. I also think it's exciting because it showed that individuals who are experiencing this harmonious passion are really doing well in terms of their recovery capital, which are those internal and external resources, as well as just like overall feeling satisfied with life and having better mental health outcomes. And again, which I know I've said before, but we're just seeing that individuals who engage in the passion at all, even if it's more on the obsessive passion side, are still seeing benefits and have these better outcomes. So the research really is just a start for me for future projects, looking at how passion can impact recovery. I really believe in the power of passion as a path for growth and change, and I see it as a very like accessible way for people to reach whatever their goals might be for recovery. So I plan to continue to research the topic, and I think that the Phoenix is doing a really great job of bringing this to life and having you all engage in these different activities as a part of your recovery. So I'm just really excited to see where it goes from here. I'm happy to answer questions, and I know Jackie is also going to lead a discussion, but thanks for having me all.
Thank you, Lauren. Can everybody hear me okay? Great.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. That was really a great presentation. I do want to introduce myself just real quickly in case people don't know who I am. And then I would love to chat a little bit more with you about your research. I'm Jackie Hilios. I'm the Deputy Executive Director and co-founder for the Phoenix and for New Form. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm a researcher by training, and social worker prior to that, with lived experience having family members who've struggled with substance use and mental health challenges. Um, Lauren, that was great. I mean, we think about passion all the time here at the Phoenix. And as researchers, we're constantly trying to figure out how we can really measure impact and take that learning that we've had through research and make it accessible to people so that they can apply it in their own lives. So, getting the information and the outcomes to our members, getting it to volunteers, getting it to staff, and to leaders of other organizations who can also take that learning and apply it. And so, in listening to your presentation today, it brought up a number of different things for me. And so I'd love to have a little bit of a discussion for you about a couple of these, and then we'll pull in some other questions and comments from people in the chat. So there's a couple of things that kind of rose to attention for me. One is a question regarding the ability to take what you've found and apply it in a more structured way, and thinking about how someone even scores kind of in that no passion, obsessive passion, harmonious passion kind of indicator. And the use of something like a motivational interviewing, for example, to help someone move between those different stages, and understanding that, the folks who have that higher recovery capital are going to benefit from advancing within those stages. Have you thought much about how to apply it to interventions? And is something like motivational interviewing something that would be valuable?
Yeah, I've thought a lot about it. As a clinician, I'm always thinking like, how is my research going to apply back? Like that is the key of why I'm doing this. So I do think that it could be something counselors, social workers, any even peer support specialists can integrate with the tools that they're already bringing to the table. Just in terms of even asking the simple question, do you have something that you really love to do? Or maybe you used to and you haven't done it in a long time. How can we like reintegrate that into your life? So I think there are some really easy ways to use what the clinicians already have, use the tools they already have in their toolkit, and just kind of add this extra layer of support for their client. Um, Obviously, we haven't researched that yet. I would love to research kind of an intervention based on this eventually. But I think for now, if I can get the word out to clinicians of just ask the question, just ask if they have something that they love to do. How often are they getting to engage in that? Do they want to try something new? The Phoenix is a great way to do that, right? Go try some new things and see if something really sparks your interest. So I think that's a good starting point from my point of view, is just like starting to integrate these questions and then using the tools they have to kind of continue to move it forward. Now you found that you love horseback riding. How can you get out there more? How can you engage in it more? Are you engaging in it in a way where you're still balancing these other aspects of your life? And so it's just a continued conversation. But I would love to see the research kind of move in that direction. Yeah.
Well, we'd love to see it too. We'll have to
Yeah.
talk more after this is over about that. I think another kind of line of curiosity that I have. So I'll start with my own personal experience. I was a rock climber and an ice climber for a number of years. And I'll say that there were definitely times when it was in the obsessive category,
Sure.
where, I wasn't just taking time off of work. I was planning a lot of time away and figuring out how I could work around, and it became the center of my life for a number of years. And I think there was a process that I went through where it really started out, like highly obsessive, but over time, it came more into a harmonious balance.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if there's anything in the work that you've done or in your data that suggests that there's sort of a natural process, and whether or not there's this natural process that most people go through that find that harmonious balance, or if it really is a dichotomous, you're sort of either a obsessive or a harmonious kind of passionate person.
Yeah, my data doesn't have that yet, but there is a lot of data on the general model of passion that does talk about that and the development of passions. Some people develop it super young and early, and some people develop them later on, or a balance of both. But generally, kind of overarching what the research says is that most of us are going to have what you had, where it will kind of either spike in one direction or another, or kind of ebbs and flows depending on what's going on in our lives. So I think that's actually another part that lends well to the clinical piece, is that I'm not going to just be a harmonious passion person and that's always what I am. And it's like this perfect thing, right? There might be times where I lean more into that obsessive piece, or I'm kind of like edging on both. So I think just constantly checking in on that, like, this is always going to add to your life, but are there ways where we're maybe taking it a little too far? What other ways can we balance out these other pieces of who you are? So the research generally does suggest that we all kind of fall on the spectrum, and it's going to ebb and flow with life as things do. Yeah.
Really helpful. And I have one last question, then I know we got to kick it over to the chat. At Phoenix, early on, we saw folks, because we were doing a lot of fitness and endurance sports in the early days, and we would see, frankly, a lot of our members edging into the obsessive side
Mhm.
of that. And we very quickly realized that we had to do something about it, because people were getting injured. Some
Mhm.
people were getting obsessive about food. Like, it started, you could start to see things getting complicated. And that's actually when we really started leaning in on volunteerism. And we had a hypothesis that if we could help people channel their energy into helping others, that we could then help people more quickly shift from kind of that obsessive place where they're thinking about me, and instead start to think more about the collective and the we,
Mhm.
and find that meaning and purpose by helping others. Is there much out there in the research kind of on that kind of concept, or has anybody done any work on that?
I don't know that there's research specifically on the like giving back portion. I know there is like in the recovery realm, but I don't know that
Yeah.
it's really crossed over yet. But there definitely is research on kind of where's the line of obsessive passion and going too far. Like when you are injured and you're continuing to work out, that's going to have a serious negative consequence. So
Yeah.
there are some things, especially around exercise, um, that is out there on the model of passion. It's very important to kind of keep in mind. But I do think the part of like recovery coaches or like giving back in recovery is super important. So I would love to understand that more too.
Cool. Well,
Yeah.
thank you so much. I want to kind of pause or step away now. I don't know who's monitoring the chat. um, Beth, Katie, Aspen, do you have a sense of what kind of questions might be out there, or does anybody have questions?
I actually would like to ask a question that kind of goes along with some of the stuff we had in the chat, which is like, are there ways to make sure you keep a passion harmonious, or like to take the passions that aren't as healthy and like change them into being more harmonious passions, or like checks and balances, steps you can take, any of that?
I don't think the research is there yet, but that's what I would love to take the research. Like, I think, especially for this group of people in recovery, it's like, let's just see that the connection is there, which I think anecdotally we all agree it is. But let's show that through some data. And then let's start to really see, like, how can we make this a very applicable tool? And I think that's a big part of it, Katie. But I don't know that it's really developed out yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's exciting to be kind of on the forefront of a new knowledge area for sure, and one that really resonates. Um,
Yeah. Thanks.
Any other questions out there? Kara, Aspen, Beth, Jules.
I just have lots of thoughts going through my head. I can share some of them. Thank you, Lauren. This was fascinating and really lit me up. I think as well, just like as a moment of reflection for us to check in around what our own passions are and are they harmonious in our lives or obsessive. I'm also curious though, for someone, those particularly in early recovery, I think been asked what they're passionate about can be difficult. Maybe they have been using for several years and they're actually in this phase of just like figuring out who they are and what their passions are. So I wonder, do you have like tips for practitioners in the field around like even having that conversation? Because I think when like, what are you passionate about? Might be like, I have no idea.
Yeah.
So for those early in recovery, like where should people start as like for a journey of just like self-discovery about what those things may be?
I know even before I knew that this existed as a clinician, I would just kind of always go back to like, what did you used to love? Maybe before, before everything. Just kind of what did you used to really like? And maybe trying to reconnect to that or take that and kind of spark some new ideas. Like you used to love rock climbing, now you live somewhere there's not rock climbing. What other kind of adventurous pieces can we find? So I think it's just a lot of, again, that motivational interviewing of like, what are some barriers maybe to getting back into something you used to love, or talking about things that you always wanted to try and just haven't been able to yet. I honestly think the Phoenix is a great place for this because you can kind of dabble and try different things and see just what sparks that interest in you. But yeah, as a clinician, I think it would just be really important to have a very open conversation and know that they might not know. Um, and it's okay to just try again, see what's out there, see what really feels right. Yeah.
Thank you. I know as well, I just feel as an adult too, we're like less likely to try new things.
Yeah.
So I've just gone through a period of injury where I couldn't train or be as active as I usually am. And that for me was like a moment of been like, oh, so now what other passions might you try or like new activities to engage in? So I think as well that like being open to new things, it's been helpful for me recently anyway, to be like, just try new things and see what might be out there. But thank you. I know we're at time. This has been fascinating and you're amazing. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Thanks, Lauren. We'll definitely chat after this though in another time because there's
Okay.
so much excitement in I think our team for the work that you're doing.
Yeah, I'm excited to keep it going. So thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks everybody for coming.